Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Politics Lab on YouTube. My name is Bill Muck, and I'm a professor of political science at North Central College. And I'm joined, as always, by my colleague and best friend, Dr. Phil Barker from Keene State College. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Bill. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Happy Merry Christmas. I see the tree up behind you.
It's might as well this year, the way this year is going, just get to it early.
Got to find joy somehow. So, all right, for our quick video today, we are going to talk about Rudy Giuliani and the insightful comments he offered yesterday about the ongoing investigations and legal action and some conspiracy theories. So we thought it would be useful to tinfoil hat up. And we're going to read some of these Rudy Giuliani quotes, and then we'll discuss them. So, Phil, why don't you lead us off?
We should really do this every week.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So quote number one, it's way beyond what people think, including a very, very dangerous foreign company that did the votes in 27 states, a company that's not American, a company that's foreign, a company that has close ties with Venezuela and therefore China, and uses a Venezuelan company software that's been used to steal elections in other countries.
Oh, that's a good one. He went on to say, I don't think people have any idea of the dimensions of the national security problem that Dominion creates. This Dominion company is a radical left company. One of the people there is a big supporter of Antifa and has written horrible things about the president for the last 3 or 4 years.
The software they use is done by a company called Smartmatic, a company that was founded by Hugo Chavez, and Chavez's I can't even get through it without laughing, who still own it. And it's been used to cheat in elections in South America. It was banned by the United States about a decade ago. It's come back now as a subcontractor to other companies. It sort of hides in the weeds.
Hugo Chavez I didn't realize he was a computer programmer.
Yeah.
All right, we'll finish this one. The chairman of Smartmatic is a close business associate of George Soros.
Always comes back to George.
Oh, all right, Phil. So we've got Rudy full on in on conspiracy theory. Trump is supporting. Big deal, little deal, no deal. Where are we at with all this?
Before we started talking, you and I were talking about how, like, if it weren't if the stakes weren't so high, it would be funny, right? I don't know. I'll be interested to hear what you think. I'm kind of torn on whether, I mean, it is a big deal because they're undermining, or they're trying to undermine, faith in a democratic election. That is a really big deal. To some extent, it feels like, I mean, mainstream media and most of like the prominent Republicans are just kind of ignoring this. But this is Rudy Giuliani talking, but Trump's been retweeting him. I mean, Trump's been tweeting all sorts of crazy stuff too. So it's not, this is the current president of the United States. And we should say, hopefully it's obvious from our tinfoil hats, this is all nonsense, yes. Right? This is all the stuff that he's tweeting about. So, I have to say it's a big deal, right? A sitting president who is engaging in all out conspiracy theories. Now, what's happened over the last, 2 weeks? God, it's been a long 2 weeks. What's happened over the last 2 weeks is that we've gone from, it's close and disputed to, well, let it play out in the courts to that's not working. So we've just gone all out in just, crazy conspiracy theory world here. So I don't know if that's a good sign that it's, there's some sort of acknowledgement. Even Trump tweeted yesterday, I think it was yesterday, this weekend at some point, tweeted something about how Biden won by stealing.
Yeah.
Which is like, people are like, hey, it's progress. He at least acknowledged that Biden won. Right. So, yes, this is, I think, in light of the 4 years of Trump, this seems like par for the course. But if we could, again, like so many things, if we could go back 5 years and say, this is where we will be right now, we would say that's massive. That's a huge story. And it's shameful. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I like you. I have these impulses where I want to laugh at the absurdity of Rudy Giuliani, but it is so serious, right? I mean, the fact that the president continues to tweet, "I won the election" over and over and over again. Rudy's unhinged. The president is unhinged at this point. This conspiracy theory has been debunked by his own administration.
Right.
So over the weekend, the organization that basically oversees of the Department of Homeland Security said this was the safest election in U.S. history, that there's no evidence of any kind of fraud. And so his own administration said he's making things up. So, the bizarreness of it all. So I chuckle at that and how silly Rudy looks, but it's having an impact. I mean, we're seeing Rudy was on Fox News when he was spreading this. So there's a big audience for this. There are people, we talked about in the podcast polling, 7 in 10 Republicans believe the election is not fair. I mean, so it's having an effect, even though Trump is completely, lost it. People believe him. I think that's what's scary to me, is that there's going to be a long-term Democratic impact of this, where people won't believe the elections. It's now fair to do this.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of writing in political science that talks about how much public opinion affects politicians versus how much do politicians shape public opinion. And this is one. I mean, I think you can see both of that in the Republican Party, but this is an example where leaders have an impact, right? Across the board, if Republican leaders had come out, and there's certain people who wouldn't buy it, who would still believe that this is a conspiracy and that Joe Biden stole the election, but it would be like a small fringe element. And when the president and puts his stamp of approval on it, and Republicans don't say anything about it either, it just allows it to grow. It's been fascinating to watch Trump try to like walk the line of all of this stuff. I mean, there's within the Republican Party in general, there's this issue. But the thing you pointed out, how his own administration said this was the most secure election. He wanted to brag about that, right?
Yes,
Like, I
yes.
oversaw the most secure election. And that was maybe the craziest tweet that's come out from him,
Right.
in which he basically said, the Democrats, basically he's lashing out at Democrats because look at this election I oversaw, which was perfect, other than the fact that Democrats stole it, which
Right.
is rigged it, which is like like there's no cognitive dissonance.
No.
It's just insane. And you see that in other ways too. There was an article this week about the Republican Senate candidates in Georgia
Yeah.
who are trying to make this argument that we have to win. Control of the Senate is on the line, but it's hard to make an argument for why that matters without saying that Joe Biden has won the presidency.
Yes,
So they're
yes.
trying to like argue that we have to do this to check Joe Biden, but they can't make that argument because they can't admit that Joe Biden has won. It is the sort of logical somersaults that people are doing it's kind of crazy.
My favorite thing about all of this is that you're making an excellent point in a tinfoil hat. I think about it. If your kids were playing in a game and they came back and were throwing a fit because they lost, and then they wanted to challenge the rules, like, we wouldn't accept this in our own lives. And now the president of the United States is doing that. I mean, he's behaving like a child. He's throwing a temper tantrum because he lost. He knows he lost. And all those around him, the Republicans around him, are enabling him by saying, "Oh, just give him some time. He'll come." No, this is the presidency. You don't get time. You don't get to undermine the democracy so you feel better. I mean, all of it is really disturbing when it's not comical. And the other thing, Rudy also you sent me a tweet earlier where he was going after Philadelphia and Detroit and saying that
They've
these
stolen
cities
elections
always.
for 60 years, right?
Yes, and we have to be honest that some of this stuff, the racism is baked into all of that, right? That these cities with with large black populations, they can't be trusted. The George Soros comment. I mean, the George Soros critique is full of anti-Semitic, elements to that. So it's like, it's funny, but there's just a lot of ugliness to this, and it's really disturbing.
It is really, it's concerning. It is really worrisome. How do you, I mean, the buzzer has gone off, but maybe we can wrap up. But how do you see this ending? I've asked you this before, but as time goes on, there was part of me that thought Trump's going to put up a fight and then he's going to sort of give up. And in some ways he's giving up because he's drifting more and more into like, it doesn't seem like there's really any heart behind the stuff he's tweeting anymore. But his tweet activity is it is out there, it is as far out as it's been, and he's continuing, all caps now. I won this. Like it is in some ways, the fact that it is untied from reality makes it even more dangerous. Do you see him at some point, he's going to go? I fully expect him to be gone on January 20th, but I'm not sure how we get from here to there.
I don't. There's the big test is going to be when the Electoral College actually shows up and votes, and there's a real conclusion there. So hopefully that'll be the end. If he continues after that, then I think we're even more worried. This is what dictators do. This is what authoritarians do, and the only step left is to use the military to stay in power. Like I don't think he's going to do that, but it's so dangerous that we're walking. I mean, how did we get to this point where this is now seen as appropriate? I think there's still enough shame in the Republican Party where they realize that they'll let them do this a little bit, but once the Electoral College vote comes in, they'll stop it, but I'm not certain of that. I mean,
Right.
I don't know. I hope that with time and that as the process plays out, eventually he will go away. He'll never accept. I think that's clear. He'll never
Right.
accept. He'll leave office claiming that he won victory, which we should say, I don't, in history, I don't remember any presidential candidate doing that. It changes everything going forward. He smashed another norm where it's okay to attack institutions and claim you won when you clearly haven't. I mean, all of those things will have residual effect. And so I don't know. I hope that he goes away, and I know he won't go away quietly. What about you?
I don't, it's hard for, yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly. Cause I, like you, I thought that, the Republicans aren't going to, they're not going to stand by him. But I thought when he lost, that would have been the point that they started to break away, and they're not yet. And so my question is, I don't see any reason to believe that after the Electoral College meets and declares Biden the winner and Trump continues to say that he's not, I don't see Republicans standing up to him at that point. I mean, I think it's going to likely come down to Joe Biden, maybe having to have some court cases, like going to court to insist that the Trump administration actually begins the transition process. And so, people have talked about the role of the court in this. I kind of imagine it might go in the other direction, and that the court is the one that actually steps in and says, "Yeah, you can't. You've got to actually start handing over power."
Yeah.
I mean, on January 20th, right? He's going to be playing golf, right? He's
Right.
not going to
Right.
be there. Biden will be there. It'll move forward. In some ways, I imagine it's a relief, right? Like Trump gets to, he never really wanted to be president, right?
No.
It's clear even in how he ran the presidency. And so he can go back to being a media figure that rants and lashes out and has his following without all of the weight of the actual presidency. So I imagine he'll go. He's not going to go quietly, but I don't think that he's going to put up a fight when it comes time. I don't see the Republican Party stepping in before then. I mean, I think until he's
Yeah.
forced to begin the transition process, or until the actual, the courts require it, or the inauguration actually happens, I think we're going to be in this loony land.
It could be one of those situations where he heads off to Mar-a-Lago a little bit early and is down there and doesn't formally say he's leaving, but he does what he does and
Yeah.
he's gone, and continues to tweet and cause trouble. So, I mean, again, the hats are perfect, Phil. We look good. If you want more conversation about this, please tune in for the podcast on Wednesday. I'm certain this is still going to be going on, so we can maybe dive more in depth. This is a lot of fun, Phil.
It was. I'll see you on Wednesday, Bill.
See you, Phil.